something that I think is worth noting before we get to Exodus 34, which is one of his third options. Mm-hmm. The name 10 Commandments, right? We talked about this, the 10 words or the 10 frayings or sayings. Commandment is kind of an interesting translation there. Mm-hmm. But in Exodus 20 and in Deuteronomy 5, they're not actually called the 10 Commandments in relation. The Deuteronomy one, you can say, okay, it shows up a little before or after and it's being read towards this. But the one that is called the 10 Commandments is Exodus 34. The one that's actually called the 10 Commandments. And that one, Bob, I think would surprise some people of what's in there because that has the commandments that are way outside what we think of when we think of the 10 Commandments.
And remember, Exodus 34 is the event. And I like to point this out. Moses comes down with his 10 Commandments. He sees them. They've made a golden calf. He gets angry. He smashes them on the ground. Right? He has some people killed. And then God tells him, come back up the mountain and I will write with my own finger, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the text says. I will write with my own finger a copy of the words that had been written on the previous tablets.
Correct.
So God, the text is saying, I will make a copy of the very commandments that were on the previous tablets.
And God's going to make the copy.
God's going to do it himself.
God's doing it. Right.
So according to the Bible, according to the biblical text, this is going to be a carbon copy, right? By God himself, by the finger of God, of these 10 commandments. And so they should read exactly like Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. And when Moses comes down, we get Exodus 34:1. The text says, literally, the Lord said to Moses, cut 2 tablets of stone like the former ones, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the former tablets, which you broke. That's how Exodus 34 begins. Now, when we look at Exodus 34, what are the commandments? Does it say, I am the Lord your God? You will not worship any gods before me. No graven images. Does it have that same list? Here's what it says. Look at 34:12. Don't make a covenant with the Canaanites. Huh? Keep the festival of unleavened bread. Huh? Mm-hmm. The first offspring of every womb belongs to me. Huh? Don't offer the blood of a sacrifice with leaven. Don't boil a young goat in its mother's milk, which is basically a law against animal cruelty, but it's the law that most people point to where we get you can't mix milk and meat for the kosher rule. Now, look at those. By the way, how does Exodus 34 end? What's the if we look up Exodus 34 at the end of the chapter, if we look through all of these extra rules, Exodus 34:27, the Lord said to Moses, write these words in accordance with the words I have written with you. And he wrote, look at 34:28, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. And so Exodus 34, the Bible itself, claims that these are the 10 Commandments.
Right.
But those commandments look nothing like Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. I would love to see somebody put a copy of Exodus 34 up in the classroom.
Well, and if the argument is it's the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments is what's supposed to go up. If we take, let's be literal about the classifications of the Bible. The one that is explicitly classified is Exodus 34.
What it says.
Goodbye cheeseburgers in the classroom, right? That's the one, which is, as we're talking through, why are we laying out, and we're starting to dip our toes into the modern thing, but laying out the 3 versions of this is because if you're going to do this, there's a decision that gets made of which one of these. And as you've mentioned, how are they numbered? How are they understood? all of this that gets wrapped in this behind the scenes material that gets sorted through normally within traditions or denominations or biblical texts. That's a part of this conversation of what are we talking about when we say the 10 Commandments? Because it's not right cut and dry. It's not written in stone which are exactly the 10 and which aren't.
That's right.